Well, good afternoon. I am Pastor Rhonda, founder of Celebrate Life Cancer Ministry. And this month, the month of October 2020, we are actually interviewing 31 breast cancer survivors just to get them to tell their story. And so today we have with us my friend, Miss Kaprisha. Hey, Kaprisha.
Hello, Pastor Rhonda. How are you doing?
Simply marvelous. So, you know what? We don't even have to go through all of that. Why don't you just go ahead and tell us your story?
Okay. Well, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 25. That is 12 years ago. And when I first received my diagnosis, at first I was told, no, I'm too young. I mean, well, when I was thinking that there was something that was wrong, I was told that I was too young, that it's most likely wasn't breast cancer, it was a clogged milk duct or something else. But myself and my husband, we insisted that I have follow-up treatment, and I was eventually diagnosed within a few months with stage 1 breast cancer. And I was very thankful to receive this diagnosis just to give me some information and a game plan. So um, once I was diagnosed, I was able to reach out to different people for resources. One of the people that I was blessed with that came into my life was Pastor Rhonda, to give me that immediate support and reassurance that everything will be okay and that it was in God's hand, and that, I would be able to get through this. So it has been a phenomenal journey. I immediately received that summer. I remember that summer when I graduated. I was in my third year of law school. I was diagnosed I was in the very end of May, and I graduated from law school uh, within that same week. So that was a big week for me, both trying to figure out how what step to take in my career next, and also how to deal with this diagnosis. So I needed that support from Pastor Ron, and thankfully I was able to receive it. And I opted, instead of immediately sitting for the bar, to instead prioritize my health. And I was able to receive my surgery. So I had a lumpectomy, and then that same summer I did I believe, 6 or 8 weeks of radiation, and I started doing hormone treatment that lasted for approximately 5 years. And through that different time, I was able to receive different support past from Celebrate Life Ministries, and also I was able um, to join in some of the workshops and health seminars, and just receive words of encouragement throughout. So I'm very thankful for all that. So now we're going 12 years later, fast forwarding. Of course, I make sure that I'm doing ongoing mammograms, and meeting with my oncologist regularly. I just had a mammogram today, actually, which um, just to make sure that I'm continuously maintaining and upkeeping with my care. Right now, we're in the time of the pandemic, so I've been on lockdown since March, trying to really limit my activity. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was a little bit frightening because hearing about all this information about how cancer survivors are more vulnerable to the virus, and it just put me really on high alert. So before, my husband was going out doing all the shopping and trying to take care of everything, and I was focusing on my work from home, and also focus on homeschooling my children. I have 3 children. Um, Thankfully, over these 12 years, I had already had one child, but we adopted another child during my treatment, and I gave birth to another child, to my little boy. Now this December he'll be 4 years old. So that's encouragement to anyone that received their diagnosis, especially if you're a young woman who's still during that fertility time and you're thinking of how is cancer going to affect me. You still can have a full life. You still can have children. You can do different things to make sure through your treatment that you let your doctors know about that. So that's one piece of advice that I would give is think about think about your future and how you envision it. And if you see children in your future, make sure that you're taking the steps necessary. Like for one, I said I don't want to do any chemo because I was told that that negatively affects your it can affect your chances of childbirth later. And I also opted not to do the revision surgery after my lumpectomy because I wanted to ensure that I was able to breastfeed my child. So my son that I had, I was able to breastfeed him with one breast for 2 years. Actually, it lasted too long because he ended up getting too attached. But that's a whole nother discussion. But we were still able to do that. And then afterwards, I was able to get the revision surgery last year. So it's still an option to have it at a later time. Um, but that's really my experience, really trying to live with breast cancer, keeping it, I try to keep it in mind. I try to make healthier decisions on what I'm putting in my body because I have a dear friend, Lynn, who her name is Lynn, and she was diagnosed the same year, same time as me with breast cancer. And during this pandemic time, we had, this year I attended her funeral services. So her cancer came back more aggressively. She had other health issues as well. So just really try to celebrate life every day because we, what we don't know the future that God has for us, but we know we can do great things in spite of any diagnosis that we may receive. And just always
Wow.
thankful for that.
So you really wrapped your story up nice and neat with a bow on it. And I know that you are going to be an encouragement to young people, young ladies who actually are trying to decide, what should I do in regards to children. Now, did the doctors actually encourage you not to, or did they just say, plan for this?
Well, I had stage one. And this was 12 years ago. So things were different back then. Now I believe that they can go in and just really treat it exactly. But it was a discussion that I had with the doctor. So I said, I want more babies. I love children. I'm actually active in my youth ministry at my church, Greater Mount Sinai, and I'm in charge of the youth where we're still having events even during this pandemic, virtual events and everything with the babies. So I knew where my heart was and what I wanted for my future. So we said, what can we do? And they talked about freezing eggs. They talked about, you know, having a surrogate if it was decided that I wasn't able to carry. We also did additional testing and found that I'm estrogen and what's it, progesterone positive. I have PR positive breast cancer. So they let me know that if I decide to have a child later on, how that would affect my hormones and to keep that in mind. So make sure that I'm doing other things to reduce the amount of estrogen and progesterone in my body. And to keep that all in mind, they said, even though we're removing part of your breast and you're doing this radiation, we're not doing anything with your uterus. So you should still be fine to be able to have children in the future. But it was just a series of discussions that we had just because it was so important to me.
And I think you made a very valid point with it was 12 years ago for you. And
Yes,
research has come a long way. And so,
yes.
even the questions we asked back then,
Mhm.
there's even a new set of questions. So I would really encourage young ladies to actually reach out to someone in a support group that
Definitely.
can help direct you in some of the questions that you should ask your doctor about.
Yes, definitely.
Well, Capricia, before we wrap this up, is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Well, thank you so much for starting this organization. Thank you for your ministry. May God continue to bless you just to be fruitful and multiply in this endeavor. So thank you and love you.
Thank you, Capricia. And to everyone, again, I am Pastor Rhonda, founder of Celebrate Life Cancer Ministry. And if you want more information about us, we can be reached at celebratelife.cm.org. And if you are in treatment now, recently diagnosed, metastatic, or just need somebody to talk to, feel free to give us a call at 424 258 5433. Again, that number is 424 258 5433. And Pastor Rhonda and Capricia, say so long for now.
Bye.